called a, quote, critical moment for the region. Stocks in Asia rise and treasuries fall as investors await the results of diplomatic efforts that may help contain the Israel-Hamas war. Plus, Russia's Vladimir Putin arrives in China on a rare international trip for talks with Xi Jinping as the US presses Beijing to help reduce tensions in the Middle East. Plenty of shuttle diplomacy taking place then, Tom. Lots of geopolitics to talk about. Where does that leave European futures this morning?
It is the geopolitical overhang.
A few minutes to go until the start of cash equities trading. Welcome back to Markets Today. I'm Anna Edwards in London with Tom Mackenzie.
And here are your top stories. President Joe Biden set to visit Israel tomorrow in what's been...
This is Markets Today, 10 minutes into your European trading session, and European equity markets making very fragile gains this morning. Let's check in on some of the individual stocks that are on the move. Joe Easton from our equities team has a rundown for us. Joe.
So one area we're seeing significant losses today, Anna.
Individual idiosyncratic story around Country Garden, but I am interested because it used to be such a big play for investors. You get exposure to the dollar bonds of Chinese real estate and you're kind of guaranteed an income of, 6-7%. That narrative has obviously changed. Where has those fund flows...
Look, the reality is it's a very, very challenging backdrop for EM credit funds. When you get 5% in cash, if EM funds are, if EM debt is only yielding 8 or 9%, that incremental spread you get is just not attractive enough. And so that's exactly what we're seeing, that the entire Middle East region is now repricing from a starting point of spreads that were hovering around multi-year tights. So that's what we're seeing right now. So spreads in the Middle East have been underperforming their peers in the past, call it 10 days. And I think that's where some of the mispricing can still have scope for normalization.
So that adjustment is still has further to run in terms of EM within the Middle East space. Where are you finding relative value? Is there relative value now within EM credit? And if...
Talked a bit about the distress space, right? Yeah. And so I think there's still some green shoots there. I just came back from Marrakesh. The expectations were very high around discussions and potentially announcements on policy initiatives to tackle debt issues as well as the climate agenda. Now, it would be premature to say that we've had anything in the way of catalytic impact, but to be sure, progress has been made. Now, this progress has been incremental and not transformational. So during the meetings, we had announcements from Zambia, who has finally signed a memorandum of understanding with the official sector. We also saw that Sri Lanka had come to an agreement with China Exim Bank as well. So these stories, these more idiosyncratic stories, are making some progress. But like I said, they're incremental. And that's where the green shoots are, but they're not broad-based just yet.
OK, so we see those specific examples of where debt loads are being addressed. Where are you concerned about still then, Trang, in terms of debt loads that just don't look sustainable at this point for EM credit?
So the cuspy countries, right, the single B cohort in particular, we're looking at the loss of market access and high reliance on multilateral funding. But multilateral funding is also finite, right? The official sector alone cannot support the entire world. And so the debate around how to scope in the private sector is very relevant, but I think the discussions right now are still at the intellectual stage rather than in the implementation stage.
We have the Belt and Road Initiative, that summit taking place in China again today. We know that the Russian president's going to be on the ground. All sorts of controversies are...
Decided to cut these jobs. You say it's about getting rid of duplication. Is it something to do with the types of labour you need for larger aircraft versus smaller one? I know that wide bodies, there's an anticipation we see a pickup in demand for wide bodies given the continuation of that part of the post-pandemic business.
Yes.
Here at Bloomberg. Just a quick check on what we're seeing on markets this hour then. Let's get more then from Bloomberg's Oliver Crook, who joins us from Tel Aviv. Oliver, good morning again. What more do we know then about Biden's trip to the region? He's going to be in Israel, but also elsewhere. And this follows a diplomatic push from Anthony Blinken.
That's right. That's really the groundwork that was laid.
With Xi making a rare trip outside Russia then, Rebecca. How has the relationship between Putin and Xi, Russia and China, how has it changed since Putin's last visit to Beijing, weeks before, of course, the invasion of Ukraine?
Absolutely. Well, we've seen